In today's video, I'll be showing you how I rigged this free backpack prop that I used in my comic book, Tiger Dragon The Rebirth. You will also learn advanced weight mapping and how to create your very own parameter slider just as the professionals do in the Daz 3D store. Hi, I'm Palmy. Welcome back to my channel where I help you to master Daz Studio. Now if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any cool videos that are going to help you on your journey. Having said that, let's get back to the tutorial right now. Welcome to this tutorial where we'll be looking at rigging free props that we can download from third-party websites. So this tutorial is going to really help you content creators understanding how we can actually rig free props that aren't rigged and we can use them inside Daz Studio. So let's get started with this tutorial right now. So you're probably wondering, Palmy, why are you showing me this page? Well, this is actually my story, Tiger Dragon The Rebirth, from a page from my comic book. And I highly recommend you go read it. So if you want to support me, go read it. Link is in the description down below. It's free, totally free. You can go read it via the Webtoons app. You can see it there as well. Much better than watching TV and mindless TV and watching the news about COVID-19 since in the lockdown period. Go and read something that's entertaining, that's something that's going to give you a bit of fulfillment and enjoyment. Now, the other reason why I'm showing you this as well, this page, is this bag here. Now, this bag here is a free prop that I downloaded from a website that's I'm allowed to use in my comic book because it's royalty free. And this prop here, this bag was not rigged. So this flap didn't open by itself. I had to rig it so that flap would open. So that's what I'm going to show you today, is how to rig props from third-party websites, and then you can use that skill to rig anything. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to show you the website right now. So here it is. It's from cgtrader.com. So it's free to log in here. Create a login and you can do that. And this is the actual bag. And obviously you can see it's different because I changed the colors. I didn't want the same bag. So you can see the colors are different. And there's a reason behind the colors, but that will be as you actually read the comic book. So let's go back to this. So CG Trader, I highly recommend you check out that website. You can buy products from here as well if you wish to do so, and that's up to you. But this was a free one, and basically when you go to download these products, it tells you what the formats are. So here for this actual backpack here, which is what I downloaded, we've got the FBX format and the OBJ format. So I'll go through the different formats right now. So let me just go to Daz Studio. And when we go into Daz Studio, we need to import them. So we go to File, Import, and it's actually saved in my comic props backpack. Okay. So I'll load the OBJ one first, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I want to go to Source, and here's the OBJ file. So I'm going to open that. So then it gives you this import options. Generally, you would leave this as it is. Daz Studio will pick the best settings for you to import the item, unless you know where it's from. So let's say somebody made it in Blender, then you would choose these options here. So say somebody made it in Hexagon, you would choose these options depending on how it was made. But generally, Daz Studio is pretty good in terms of importing them with the right proportions. So we do accept, and here it is. So one thing you notice straight away is there are no maps, meaning there are no texture maps. So if I did the NVIDIA IRA preview, you would see it's just black. That's all there is. So with the OBJ, what happens is when you download these files from CG Trader, you get the maps, but you have to put them in yourself. So you'll have to go to the surfaces and you would have to put them in yourself. And as you can see, the surfaces are nowhere. The surfaces are not included with the actual OBJ file. It's just basically like the bare bones file. And what you would need to do with this OBJ file is you would need to create your own surfaces and everything. So OBJ is not the best format sometimes. And as you can see, OBJ file is just, a basic object. And it's very, very difficult to create surfaces for this. So, but you can do it. So that's the OBJ format. So let's delete that. Not the best format really. In terms of when you're downloading it from a free website. So remember, it's free product. Don't expect it to be the best product. Free does not always mean the best. Sometimes you need to actually pay to get the best product, and that's up to you if you want to invest in yourself. So always take that into consideration. So let's open the FBX format. So File, Import. Let me just go back up to the FBX format. Source, backpack, and this FBX format. And now it's going to import it. And as you can see, the maps are already there. So with the FBX format, everything is as it should be. So it's exactly as it was here in terms of your textures are there and everything's there. So if I go to the surfaces and click on a surface, you would see there's a surface for the mat here. There's a surface here. So everything has its surfaces basically. All the settings are there, and you can see everything here. So that's why the FBX format is preferred really. Unless the OBJ file is from, unless the OBJ file has the actual surfaces that comes with it, you prefer to be working with FBX format. So let's have a look at this. So the way it's done is we've got a group here, a backpack group, and then we've got all the individual sections relating to the bag. So before we actually start rigging this, what we need to do is I need to make this an OBJ file. I need to export it as an OBJ with all the maps. So I don't want to lose any of the actual textures. And the way we do that, select the actual top bit here, the actual node here, the first bit, the actual parent here. And we're going to go to File, and then we're going to go to Export. So I'm going to call it Backpack 1. I've already called it before Backpack, but I'll call it Backpack 1. Yes, I want to save over it. So this is the important bit here. So although if you're a beginner, this looks very intimidating, it's not. I'll explain to you very briefly. So the main things we want to actually do when we're exporting is to say where it's from. So to convert from Daz Studio to what format. Now it depends what format you're exporting it to. So if you're going to work in Blender, then choose Blender. If you're going to work with Cinema 4D, choose Cinema 4D. If you're going to work in Hexagon, choose Hexagon. Or Lightwave, or whatever modeling program you're using, that's here. You obviously change that to those settings. In this case, we're going to re-import it back to Daz Studio, so we don't need to worry about this really. We don't need to change it to Daz Studio because we're going to use it in Daz Studio anyway. So most of these settings you'd leave anyway. So these settings here that are already pre-ticked, you would leave these, and including this, you would leave it as it is because those are the correct settings for Daz Studio. Now, in terms of right surfaces, this is the one we want to actually do. Here, right surfaces. So this is the important one we want to do, is this one here, collect maps. So when it says collect maps, because it's selected, it's going to collect all the textures in our surfaces, and it's going to keep those when we save it as an OBJ file. So I'm going to do accept. All right, we're going to get rid of this now. And then we're going to go to File, Import. I'm going to go to my desktop where I saved it, Backpack 1. And these settings are fine because we already know it's Daz Studio. We don't need to change any of these settings. Daz Studio already knows. Do accept. And here it is. So if you go to our surfaces now, you'll see our surfaces. Everything is there. Okay, it's kept all the settings because we chose that option, collect maps. If we didn't choose collect maps, you would have no textures saved with that OBJ file. So very important setting that is. And the reason why we are making it into an OBJ file is because we need to convert it to a figure so we can create a bone, so we can open this flap and make it riggable. So that's the whole point of doing that. I wanted to keep the textures. I wanted to create it into an actual OBJ file with the textures. So that's why I did that. Cool. Okay, so everything's there exactly the way I wanted it. We've got our bag here, and now we've got this flap. I want to open this flap. I want to make it riggable like I did in my comic book. So the first thing I need to do is select my actual backpack here, OBJ file. And what I want to do now is I want to convert it to a figure. So we go to Edit, Object, because it's an object at the moment, because of this icon here. Icon here means it's an object, it's not a figure. Object, we go to Rigging, and we go to Convert Prop to Figure. Right, so we get this option here, Convert Prop to Figure. Now it's saying what kind of rigging type do you want? And I'll explain these very quickly. The triax weight mapping is a very old way of doing the weight mapping. It was used for like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And we don't use that anymore in Daz Studio. The one that Daz Studio uses is just one here, general weight mapping. This is the one that Daz Studio uses for everything. So uses it for props, uses it for figures. It's just a general weight mapping that is being used now in the current format that we're in with Genesis 8 characters and Genesis 3 characters. So that's the one we're going to stick with. Parametric joint parameters, we don't use that anymore. Basically, general weight mapping is the one you want to choose. And we do accept. So when we do this, you'll see that this icon changes now. So this probably looks very familiar to you. Do you know when you add a character, a figure into your scene, you'll see it looks like this hexagonal shape here. That's what that means now. Now it's a figure because now it's got bones, okay? And that means it's riggable. We can start to rig it. We can start to make things move. Cool. Okay. So now we've done that. So the next thing I want to do is just change my view draw settings to texture shade, not texture shade, sorry, wire shade, so we can see all the geometry, here. So the first thing we need to do is actually create the face, the geometry face, the selection. What part of the bag do we want to make riggable? We certainly don't want to make all of it riggable. We want, what part of the bag do we want to make riggable? So I want this. So as I'm looking around, I'm saying, okay, where do I want the kind of the selection to be, the geometry selection? So I'm looking around and go, okay. So judging by this flap here, I need to make sure this is selected. I need to make sure this, obviously this flap is selected, and probably this here, this handle needs to be selected as well, because I want all these to move when I rig it. So when I rig it, I want all these options to move. So that's why we got to create that face, that selection rather. So our tool settings here, very important tab, tool settings. When it comes to content creation, you're going to need this when you're going to do rigging. So if you don't have this tool settings tab, just go to window and then panes and then tool settings. Let me just find it. There is tool settings, and then you can just drag it and drop it into the correct area. And mine is now disappeared. It's disappeared because I clicked on it. So let me go back. Tool settings, there we go. Let me just drag it up because it's quite important. There we go. Okay. Oops. Okay. So from here we can choose our tools. So in here, I'm going to click up here, our active tool, and I want geometry editor. Now you've seen this a lot before. I do use it quite a lot in my tutorials, but we're going to go through it very quickly again. So when you're selecting, you have to be very careful what you select first. So you have to be a bit more methodical about selection. Because if I just started selecting these here, these areas, you have to be very methodical in how you select. So how do we do that? Oops, daisy. How do we do that? Let me just clear that. There we go. So we have to be more methodical. We have to think about this correctly. So I want to select this section first. So I'm going to do click and then control click, and now I've selected all those. Now I don't want to go with my mouse and select every part of this geometry. All I'm going to do is keep control pressed on my keyboard and press the plus sign. And as you can see, it's automatically going to select that geometry. I don't have to do anything. All I'm doing is keeping control and plus. I'm pressing plus on my keyboard. So I'm keeping the control key down and my plus button. That's what you can hear right now. I'm tapping on my keyboard. All right. So the next thing, I'm still keeping my control button pressed. I want to select this here. All right, keeping plus pressed, and now it's going to select that geometry as well. So you see, we're being very methodical about the way we're selecting, so we don't make that many mistakes when it comes to selecting our geometry. Cool, I think that's enough. Now I want to select the handle here, so I can just select some part of the geometry, keep the plus sign pressed, and as you can see, it's selecting all of that. So obviously it depends how this person has created this product. Obviously they're doing a very good job of creating separate pieces. So this is a separate piece, that's a separate piece, and this is a separate piece. So they've done a very good job with that. And now all I need to do is select the bottom section here, and then just keep my control plus button. I'm always keeping control pressed, I haven't let go. And now I want to choose. So this is where the interesting part comes. Where do I want to finish selecting my geometry? Now my bag's going to hinge from here, somewhere from here, this part. So I want to select up to here. So you have to be very methodical about where you approach this. It's not just a case of, I want to select everything and then like rig it. It's not like that. You have to be your thought process has to be very clear. So there we go. Cool. So we've selected everything that we needed. Just double checking everything. Yeah, that's all highlighted. Obviously the color of the doesn't really help because it's brown, but we'll leave it as it is. So that looks good to me. All right, cool. So now I'm going to right click anywhere in the viewport here. I'm going to go to geometry assignment. I'm going to create a face group from the selected. So I'm going to create a face group. All right, I'm going to call this bag flap. I don't know. Probably think of a better name, bag flap. And there it is, if we just look over the bag flap. All right, nothing new we haven't done before from the other geometry tutorials. Cool. So this is the reason why we create this face is because when we create our bone, our joint, when we create our bone, we're going to tell the bone, hey, you're only going to control this section of the bag. This is your job. All right, so let's go and create our bone for our bag flap. So let's go to geometry editor here. We're going to choose our joint editor now. So the first thing we want to do is actually click on the bone here, the bone that's created here, because we're going to create a child bone. So this will be like our main bone, and then we're going to create child bones from it. So here we're going to go to this option here, click on the menu here, and we're going to go to create new child bone. So here, obviously give the bone a name. So keep the bone name the same as the face group. So I recommend you do that. So bag flap. So you know what everything is. It just makes it easier to see, because obviously the more bones you have, the more complicated things get, and you don't want to lose track of what's happening. So the rotation order, make sure it matches the rotation order here. So YXZ. All right. You can change the rotation order if you feel that it's not working for you. So don't feel like, oh, I can't change it. Yes, you can. If you feel like you want to use another rotation order just to, if it works better, that's fine. You can do that. There's no hard and fast rule. Just pick one that works for you, but start with the same as the original here, and that makes it easier for you. So do accept. Cool. So we've seen this before in our the other tutorial that I did. So here's our bone here. As you can see, it's far too big. So remember that the center point is the green here, the green section here, and then the end point is the red section. If I zoom out, the red section here. All right. So depending where you put this bone, this is what will affect how this flap opens. So at the moment, it's just a bone. It has no idea of what it's controlling, this bone here. So to tell the bone what part of this bag it needs to control, that it's in charge of, we go to the selection group here, and then we choose the face that we created, which was here, the bag flaps. So tick that. So now what happens is this bone knows, hey, I'm in charge, I'm controlling this bag flap. So when I move this around, it will control this bag flap here. So I just want to bring this down a bit. So probably here. Now I don't know exactly where the bone needs to be. This is what happens when you are working. The more you work with it, the more you work with bones, you'll understand where they need to go. So I'm going to kind of play it by ear, so to speak. So I had a rough idea where I want it to be. And I want to move that across here somewhere. And then I do call a little bit of cheating. I do right click here, and I do align, and I do align node. There you go. So I don't need to worry about the settings here, getting the exact orientation or positions. I can just move them using these translation tools, and then I can do right click, align, and then align node, and it will automatically do that for me. So I don't need to worry about aligning nodes manually using these endpoint positions. If you want to be very precise, then use these endpoint positions. That's fine. Sometimes when you have a complex product and you're working on, you might want exact figures, and that's fine. So let's just get that there. All right, I think that's roundabout correct the way I did it. If it's not, I can always adjust. Cool. So at the moment, nothing's going to happen because obviously there's no weight maps. So let me go to the weight maps. So again, let's go to our node weight map brush. Here we can see our general weights. I'm going to click on that, and you can see it's all highlighted here. So this is the weight we're going to apply. So the way weight maps works is basically, now we're going to say how much weight is going to be applied to certain areas in here of this geometry, so we can move it. Because if we don't apply any weight, we can't tell. Daz Studio doesn't know how to move it or how much to move it because there's no weight applied. So what I normally start off with is I do right click, weight editing, fill, and I'll choose 100%. And you'll see that it goes all red. So what this means now is the full weight is applied to this geometry here. So now when I go back to my bag flap here, and I use my X rotation, you'll see it's starting to move magically. Alright, and as you can see, there's a few problems with this. You can see the geometry stretching here. Can I zoom in a bit more to show you this? The geometry stretching here, and as we go further into it, it's cutting into this other geometry. That doesn't look very good as well. So you can see there's a lot of problems here that we have to resolve. But we have our base. So we have a base, and now we can adjust from there. So always start with the base. Don't try to be too particular. Just say, hey, whack on 100% weight and then adjust from there, because now we have a baseline to work off from. So the other thing I want to show you is go back to the joint editor and show you how this bone actually affects everything. So let me just show you what happens. How can I get a good view here? All right. So you'll see as I start moving this green, you'll see how it starts affecting the movement of the flap there. This is our bone that we created, a bag flap bone, and with the actual, while it's being rotated, you can see how this bone is affecting the movement. So you can see the exact thing, what's happening. So you can actually choose from here and say, hey, I don't like the way this bone is. I want to move it a bit, I want to move it around about here. I want to move it higher up maybe. I want more, I want less. So you can see exactly how these bone interacts and how it really affects the movement, the rigging of this prop here, this prop that we've got in the bag flap. So you can see as I move the X rotate more, you can see what happens. Oh, I don't like that. I don't know what's happening there. So you can see that, hey, that's actually pushing it forward. I don't really want that. Maybe you want that. So it's a great way to see and learn how bones actually work and how the rigging format works. So this is why I'm showing you this. So actually that's probably better off back where it was. So as I move this now, X rotation, saying, hey, yeah, that's what I kind of wanted. Maybe I need to move it down a bit more because I don't like the way it's working there. So there. Yeah. So you can see now how it kind of works and what's exactly, how it works and where you want to position your bones. So I'm going to position this bone right now where I want it. All right, so that's where I wanted it. A line and then a line node, so it just lines it automatically. So that's where I wanted it because I wanted my kind of pivot point to be there. I wanted my pivot point to be there. So you can see how it works, how the bone works there. All right, cool, I'm happy with that. So again, just play around with this bone the way you want it, where you want your pivot point to be, and you can see like how much you want, where you exactly want to place this joint, this actual bone. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our weight mapping and sort out this weight mapping, because obviously the strength is ridiculous the way things are going. So as you can see, it's bending the geometry where I don't want it to bend, and it's doing some weird stuff, and I don't want that. So how can we control the weight mapping? So now I've got my baseline here. I've got two options here in my weight map brush. I've got my P and my S. So here we've got P meaning paint, which means add weight. So we don't want to add any more weight. You can add and take away weight. And then here you got the S, which is smooth the weight. So smoothing the weight kind of is like, it's like making it less rigid. So we're making it less rigid. We're giving it a bit more of this natural kind of flow to the material, so to speak. So we're kind of going to release the weight. We're not going to make it so rigid. And then here you got extra settings like symmetry if you want to use symmetry. So if I was using a symmetrical object, it would do both sides, so to speak. I'm going to leave that as it is. And then here you got sensitivity. So the sensitivity I set it to is 0.5, which is very sensitive. Yours might be somewhere very low, so play around with the settings. So obviously the more sensitive it is, the more stronger the effect is with your brush as you're doing it. So you'll see me here now. I've got it on the S. I'm gonna left click here and I'm gonna start smoothing it out. So you can see it's starting to go blue here, which means I'm smoothing that around. I'm smoothing it. Obviously I've started to add some here. So if I added some by accident, I'll keep the Alt key pressed and I can delete it and go back to normal. So here I'm using my Alt key to kind of remove some of that smoothing that I applied. Then I can apply the smoothing again. So this process takes a very long time. So as you can see, the geometry is changing as I'm doing it. You can see it's kind of being less rigid. So what I'll do is I'll probably fast forward this bit because I don't want it to be too long. So I'll fast forward this section and you can see me actually doing it. Okay, so here we are. That is my rigging done, my weight mapping rather. So I'm pretty happy with that. Yes, it's not the best weight mapping, but the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And this is what I was kind of wanted the effect to be. Now you're probably thinking, well, Palmy, this isn't very realistic because technically, if the bag flap was open, then this would curl down or this would curl back even more. But that would mean creating another bone here and then having that moved further back. But we're not doing that today. What we're doing is keeping it very simple. In terms of this weight mapping. So that's advanced weight mapping, which we can use. So obviously I was using the smoothing tool. So I was using Alt to remove the weight mapping and then pressing my left mouse button here to kind of bring the weight mapping back and smooth it all out. Remember the P is basically you're painting the weight map. So if I did the P now, you can see I started to paint it and then I can do the Alt key and then remove it. So that's what P does. Smoothing actually applies smoothing, so it gives you different levels. So you can see here we've got blue, which is very, very faint weight mapping, and then we've got intermediary colors, and then red meaning like full weight. So that's what we got here. All right, so now we've got our bag flap weight map done, which is awesome. Happy with that. What else can we do? So at the moment to control this, we've got to X rotate here. We've got to X rotate here. So as you can see, if I go too far, it kind of intersects with the other part of the geometry. So how do I stop that from happening? So what we need to do here is we use the gear icon here for the X rotate, and we can tell this X rotate when to stop. So we're going to do a bit more advanced stuff here now. So let's just move across here. All right, so where do I want this to stop? So let me see. Let's find the figure first, the actual value before it starts intersecting. So it's starting to intersect there a bit. So let's pick up a random. Let's say minus 120 is where I want it to stop. And here, where do I want it to stop? Here as well. Yeah, 0 is fine. So I go into my X rotate. I click on the gear icon. I do parameter settings. And here we can actually change the label. So we don't change the name. We change the label. So I could say here, I don't want it to be called X rotate. I'm going to say bag flap open. Now we don't change the original here, the X rotate, because that's going to mess a lot of things up. Unless you created the parameter yourself, which I'm going to show you how to create your own parameter as well right after this. And then you can call it whatever you want to. So we're going to call it bag flap open. And here's where we choose some settings. So minimum is what's the minimum setting, and so what I want to do is the maximum setting is obviously going to be 0, and the minimum setting is going to be minus 120, and our nudge is basically when I use these these buttons here, plus and minus, how much of it will it increase by. So I normally have this as 1, so meaning that every time I hit that plus or minus button, it will be like 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll move in those intervals basically. All right, and we're going to use the limits obviously because we don't want them to go any further than that. So we do accept. All right, so when I open this bag, it's going to stop at 120 and then it's going to go to 0. So now we can control the exact kind of position of where this bag flap opens and closes, so we have more control. All right, that's kind of cool. So you're probably thinking out, Palmy, well, it's moving negative. I kind of wanted it to open from left to right instead of right to left. Okay, so how can we resolve that issue? So one thing we can do is actually create our own property, one of these kind of properties. So these are all properties here. We're going to create our own property here and we're going to tell it what to do. So, okay, so what we need to do is we right click in the parameters tab and we go into edit mode. Now edit mode is very powerful. It's what a lot of content creators use. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to create our own parameter here, create our very own parameter. We're going to right click again and it's called create new property. All right, so we're going to leave the property type as float. That is correct. And now this is where we can actually write our name of our property, our parameter here. So you can see here, these are the names: X translate, Y translate. We're going to create our own. So I'm going to just call it bag flap open / close. And then when I click on the label, it will automatically copy that name across to the label. So the path, we can choose where our path is, where is it going to be. So I want my property to show up, this property that I'm creating, this parameter, to show up in the transforms. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to click on general and transforms, and there it is. So what will happen is this property will show up in here in the transforms. All these settings are fine. We don't want to hide it, we don't want to lock it. This is all correct. So here we have the presentation attributes. You can choose the presentation attributes, what type of attribute is it, and you can choose here what you want. So I'm going to leave it as none because that's fine for what we need it for. So here we can choose the color of our actual parameter. What does it look like? So you can see all these colors here: red, green, blue. We're going to choose something different. So I'm going to go to the color A, and I'm going to choose something like, I don't know, pink. Just make it crazy. So what happens is all this parameter will be pink. Okay, so very bright, very unique compared to what's here in Daz Studio. So you know it's relating to this prop that we create, this prop that we have at the moment, that we have selected, this bag prop. The color B is the text. So this is the text color here. So obviously I'm going to leave that white. I want it to be readable. You can apply an icon if you want to. So you go to browse and apply a specific icon or a card. We're not going to do that in this case. And then these settings here, we'll sort out later, the attributes. We'll sort these out later. So do create. All right, so here it is. Our bag flap, our setting. So when we move this, nothing's happening at the moment. So we need to resolve that now. So to make this parameter here, take the setting of this one, we're going to use ERC, which is Enhanced Remote Control. Now, Enhanced Remote Control is a very another advanced feature, and what that allows you to do is have one parameter that controls several other parameters. So we're using ERC in a bit of a different way, but that's okay. I just want to show you what ERC is because it makes things a lot easier. So imagine if I had, for example, if I rigged these zips to open. So I had one zip here, and there's this zip here, and then this zip here. Let's move it across. I can use ERC, Enhanced Remote Control, to say, okay, when I move this slider, you're going to open all the zips. So that's what ERC is. It just basically controls several sliders in one go. So we're using ERC in a way that probably isn't the best way to use it, but I'm just going to show you this so it gives you a little idea of how ERC works. So we right click on our new parameter that we just created, our property type, and we're going to use this here, ERC freeze. Now we get this this dialog here. It looks very intimidating. It's not that intimidating. There's only a few options you need to worry about really, because we're doing something very basic here, and that's this option here, these boxes here. So the one thing we want to be concerned with is here. We want to make sure that the correct properties are ticked according to how this flap moves. So the node is our bone, so bag flap, this one here. So basically, when these are all the translation, rotation that happens to our bag flap when we move it into our open position. So this is correct. So this is saying, all right, for this node, this is what the Z origin is doing, the Z end origin is doing, the Y origin, the Y end, the X rotate, and the X origin rotate. This is what's happening. So this is correct. So we want all these ticked because this is the node we are concerned about. If there were other nodes in here that were affected, we would untick those. So because this is a very basic one, as you get more complex and you're doing more things, there'll be other nodes in here. You'll be like, no, I don't want the ERC to worry about that node. I want to untick that. So in this case, this is correct because we only have one bone that's doing one thing. So we do accept. All right. So now when we use this, you can see it's 100%. So now when I bring this back to 0, you'll see, you'll see it goes to -100. I didn't want that. We're going to sort that out as well. You can see that now I'm controlling it using this, and it's going from the target. You can see the target is moving this. So you can see that, okay, it's moving it. So we're controlling that. Okay. And now we've got a left to right, where it's the plus means I'm opening it, and the left means I am closing it. Now, as you can see, it's going to -100. I didn't want that. So we go back to the gear icon here, we go to parameter settings, and then we change it here. So I didn't want minimum, I didn't want minus 100, I wanted 0. That's the minimum. Maximum is 100. The nudge, again, it's up to you what you want to choose. I like 1. So every time I hit that plus point, it moves in increments of 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's up to you want to choose what you want to choose. That's the way I like it. Here you can choose as percentage as well. So at the moment it's a percentage. So if I do accept, you'll see it's a percentage, 100%, and then 60%. Obviously you can choose to say, hey, I don't want to use percentages. I just want you to use the actual values. So again, I want my nudge to be 1. So it's like, there it is, values of, normal values. So generally I leave this as a percentage. I think it's fine as a percentage. Nudge, I want to be 1%. Thank you very much. Cool. So there we go. All right. So now one more thing I want to add before we leave is, all right. So when I click on this bone, I don't want people to move these settings. I don't want it to translate it. I don't want it to Y translate. I don't want these options. I don't want people to move that. All I want them to do is see this flap open close so they can just change that settings. So how do we do this? So what we need to do is we need to hide these settings. Let me just turn these back to normal. So what we do is here, we're still in edit mode because we have this P here. And I don't want any of these other transform settings here. I don't want any of these other settings when they're in the transforms here. When they click on the back flat bone, I don't want anything here. So what I'm going to do is I click on the first bit here, the yellow, and then I go to the bottom and then I click on the last one there. Shift and I click on the last. As they're all highlighted, actually we could probably leave these. I'm just concerned about these here, the actual rotation, translation tools and the scale tools. I don't want this to be viewable by anybody who clicks on this product. I just wanted to see this option here. Then I can make sure I'm still, my mouse is still over the highlighted section here, this yellow section, everything that I highlighted. I'm going to right click, I'm going to do hidden, and do hide selected properties. All right, now I'm going to come out of edit mode. So as you can see, the only thing they could do now is when they click on the back flap, is they'll just see this here, and all they can do is open this. That's all they can do. So they can't do any rotations or anything else to my product. This is the only thing they could do. Now, obviously, if you're, a bit more intermediate advanced, that you can just right click here. You can just go to here, this option tool here, and go to show hidden properties, and you can see them anywhere, and you can start manipulating those if you wanted to. You can't stop anybody from doing that, but the majority of people who actually just use Daz Studio to create their artwork are not going to go into show hidden properties. They're just going to put the product in, use the parameters that are available as they want for their bag or their prop, and then they can just render the scene. So they're not going to really deal with that unless you're advanced or intermediate or you're content creators. So in my haste in ending the video when I did, I forgot to show you how to actually save this. So let's actually show you how to save this so you can get it back and use it again and again. So first thing you need to do, go to your scene tab, go to click on your parent here, the actual figure here at the top, and then you want to go to file and save as. Now there's two options you can save it as. You can either save it as a scene subset. So here's my scene subset. I'm going to save it as backpack, which I already saved it before, and click yes. And then to make sure that this is already ticked. So this means it's going to save everything relating to that backpack. Do accept. Cool. Now the other way you can do it is to save it as an actual support asset, as it would be if you were downloading a professional product and being installed to your Daz Studio library. And the way we do that is we go to File, Save As, and we go to Support Asset, Figure Prop Asset. So I'll just call it back. I'll just write over backpack because I don't want to have multiple backpacks in my prop library. Yes, I want to overwrite. Okay, so here you can choose the asset library. So at the moment it's being saved to my default library, which is on my C drive, which is normal, everyone's C drive if you're on Windows. I'm not too sure where it saves it on Macs. So if you're on Mac, it will save it in your default location. Vendor name, you can have a vendor name. So if you were going to sell this product, if you created a product, and you want to sell it, then yes, you would have a vendor name, whatever that vendor name is. You type it in there. Product name, so whatever the product was called, backpack, whatever it was, and the item name. What's the specific item name? Metadata here, you would tick the content type and you would choose what it is. So this is a prop. So if from the list here, I would choose prop. As you can see, there's other things here. Camera, actors. Actors would be if you're choosing figures. So if you're creating figures, you would have actor. Light, if you're creating light sets. Scene sets, so if you're creating a whole scene. That's how they say. So this is how they are categorized. The metadata is categorized. So when you click on, I'll show you now actually when I do this. So we'll do it as prop. These settings should all be ticked as well. Compressed files probably be ticked on yours if you're a beginner. It's up to you if you want to untick it. I leave it unticked, just my preferred method. The reason why I don't tick it is if I wanted to go inside and actually edit the actual code, then I could do that. Obviously I don't know how to edit the code yet, but when I do learn that, you will learn that as well. So we do accept, and then it saved it. So how do I check to make sure it's saved? So let me just hide this so you can't see it. So the first method, the way we saved it was the scene subset. So the way to import a scene subset into the scene, you go to File, Merge, and then Backpack. There it is. And then there it is. And then when we open it up, you'll see that it's exactly as how we saved it. There it is, our backpack with our custom parameter, and it works as it should expected. There we go. Awesome. So I can delete that. Alright, the other way we can check to see the way we saved it was the support asset is we go to our smart content tab, we go to our saved files, we go to the prop section now, there'll be a prop section there, and you'll see it here, backpack, backpack 1, and all the other stuff I've saved here. So this is the actual prop. Now it looks very professional. It's got the word prop next to it. Just like if we went to props here, you'll see all the props here, all the official props that I've purchased, they're all here, and they got the word prop on it. Looks very professional. So we double click on backpack, which is what I saved it as. There it is, imported into the scene. As I expand this, you will see it looks exactly the same. So it's up to you how you want to save it. Whether you want to save it as a scene subset or you want to save it as a support asset, that's your choice. I'll give you two options, pick one and go for it. So there you go, those are the tools and techniques you need to know to take a free prop from a website such as CG Trader and then get that prop into Daz Studio, make it fully functional inside Daz Studio. So that is exactly what I did with that backpack inside my comic book to make it all fully functional and have the flap open. So speaking of my comic book, Tiger Dragon the Rebirth, if you want to support me, the link is in the description down below. It's a Webtoons link, it's a completely free comic book. Hit that link and go and read my comic book. Now let's move on to comic of the week. So the comic of the week is going to be up here. RL, I believe that's your initials or not your full name. Thank you very much for your comic. Thank you very much for your comment. I'll leave it up here. It's quite a long comment, so I'll leave it here to the end of the video. So if you want your comic to feature in next week's video, leave a comment down below as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you like this video, hit that like button as well. And don't forget to check out these videos here. They're going to help you level up and become the best Daz Studio 3D digital artist. So check out those videos. Having said that, I'll see you in next week's video.